Okay, I think we are live. Back again, another week. We got another new project today, another new tool to learn. Kind of going down the Lightning app developer rabbit hole here. So excited for tonight. We're going to keep this project pretty concise. It's going to be a bit shorter. Partially because just my time. I didn't have a ton of time to work on it this week, but luckily WebLN, the library we're going to be working with today, is really easy to learn, really easy to pick up and make progress quite quickly. So I had a great time with it, and yeah, excited to show you all. But yeah, just welcome in. Thank you for joining live if you are here. I think this is the 5th week in a row I've done one of these live streams, so feels like a little bit longer, but it's been fun, and yeah, it's kind of just my commitment right now to keep just sharing what I'm learning and also finish the second course, which I'm working on, the second pleb dev course, backend, and really this is a lot of backend is a lot of the stuff that I've been getting into with these live hacks and workshops lately. Just because once we go to the level of actually talking to our node, we're dealing with APIs, we're dealing with RPC, we're dealing with these lower level protocols that usually only interact in the server environment versus like a front end environment versus React. And I think in the past, the barrier to entry for kind of getting started, especially talking to a Lightning node, was pretty high, and things are improving a lot. So yeah, I mean, a big part of my story really was, I started developing because I got into Bitcoin. I wanted to work on Bitcoin. I wanted to work on Lightning. I wanted to learn all that stuff, and I kind of just took the very standard web developer route of learning programming, and took a long time. I was not a natural by any means. That's why I chose pleb dev, because that's definitely been my experience. Like I've seen other people kind of learn faster than me, build more, kind of just see things click with them. That didn't always happen with me. I kind of had to grind for my skills, but anyway, nonetheless, like taking that standard web developer route and learning a little backend along the way, but I always found it so difficult to get to that next level where I was meaningfully interacting with Bitcoin or meaningfully interacting with Lightning with my code. I was mostly front end focused, and still am in a lot of ways, and it's a long journey to make. If you're starting from zero and you want to work on Bitcoin and Lightning, it can be a really long journey. And so I was really feeling that. And last year had tried to go back in it again, see like, okay, what are the newest libraries? What are the newest ways that you can interact with Lightning? And a lot of the tools that I've covered in these workshops, I had tried even a year ago. And a year ago, I just couldn't quite get to that next step, and a lot of it was the developer environment, which is why I'm excited to cover that stuff, like getting our developer environment set up so we can run our nodes on reg test and kind of have an environment where we can test things out and not feel a danger because we're using our live mainnet node. And so yeah, this stuff, it can take a few passes, so that's why I'm happy to record these, because I wish that there would have been recording, just like simple recordings for me to watch like a year back. And so yeah, that is one of the motivations. What else? So over our workshops and kind of live hacks, past few weeks, we've talked to a Lightning node in 2 different ways so far in our projects. And this will be the third kind of unique way that you can talk to your Lightning node. And so, and all of it in JavaScript as well. So I don't know what other methods there are. Actually, I know you can talk to a node with Noster. One of the guys here at Pleb Lab was telling me today, like I should look into that next. Like how do we connect to our Lightning node over Noster in JavaScript? I don't know how to do that yet though, but maybe we can figure that out in the near future. But yeah, so using just JavaScript, there's a lot more you can do today than even a year ago. And so yeah, the methods that we've learned so far, the ways that we've talked to a Lightning node are with LN bits and with last week, I believe, was it last week? I think so. We used LND gRPC, which is a library that wraps the gRPC interface. A little bit confusing. Basically, it's a library that lets you make those low-level calls to your node in a little bit more of a friendly way. And so those are the two ways so far that we have talked to our Lightning node. This is going to be the third, and I think it might actually be the easiest. I mean, LN bits is very easy because it's just an API that you can call, and it's just like your regular API calls that you make in a front end. That's why in the first pleb dev course, that's why we used that for the final project. Like even though the first course we were front end only, there was no server, I wanted us to be able to interact with Lightning in some kind of way. And so we used LN bits, and we used LN bits hosted instance, basically their node that they run that you can use, that's called legends.lnbits. And so it was nice because it was very convenient. We were able to just connect to it, and it had channels, and we could send to it. So it was very nice, and it's cool to get to that first victory just doing front end. So that's why I did that. But really that setup isn't ideal. Like if you want to build a real application on Lightning, you kind of need to, you definitely need to host your own node or find someone to host your own node where you can interact with it in the ways you need to. There's a ton of security concerns with just like using the legends.lnbits for sure. But once you go to that next step of like, okay, now I need to make a server, now I need to talk to my own node. It's a huge step. It's a very big step, and there's different trade-offs to consider. So you can think of like the Pleb wallet. We're not hosting anything. There's no server. It's just a front end. We're using their node, and we're using LN bits. So okay, that it works. That's fun. It's a great way to start. And then last week, what we did with LND gRPC is almost like two steps ahead in a sense, because we're going right to making these low-level RPC calls, which we're going to talk about RPC a little bit here in a little while. So you're making these low-level calls, and it's a little bit more manual. You have to work with the parameters and look through the documentation and be a little more careful. And WebLN, I think, sits kind of in the middle of those. It's this middle trade-off where you're still running your own node, but instead of having to go really low levels with these gRPC calls or these gRPC libraries, you're given an easy interface, an easy JavaScript library, JavaScript methods basically that you can call to, create an invoice, open a channel, etc. And so, yeah, I think that's basically a lot of the background I have. I don't have anything up here. Okay, cool. So, yes. So let's start kind of with a little bit of theory here. Just going to talk about WebLN, a little bit how it works. We're going to point to some resources, and then we're going to get into setting up our developer environment, which might actually be the bulk of this project. Hopefully not, but it's worth focusing on, definitely. So this is the WebLN documentation. You can find it at webln.guide here. And yes, so what is WebLN? WebLN is basically, it's a protocol, it's a standard that you can listen for, that you can accept or not accept, that basically connects into Albi or other providers that work with WebLN. And so I actually think that this screenshot is the best way to kind of visualize and then talk about what is WebLN doing here. And so kind of zoom in. So yes, my first time looking at this, I was kind of like, what does this mean? I don't really get it. But reading through their blog posts and some more documentation, it clicked with me. So we have, Bitcoin Lightning Network here, but you can think of this as like your node in general, which your node, it has these low-level messages that you can call through the command line, through libraries, and they're almost always gRPC. So gRPC or RPC, it's this just different protocol that happens over networks. It can happen intra-machine, inside a machine. And normally, like regular web developers, app developers, we don't interact with RPC at all. Like I didn't know anything about it until I saw it in documentation when I was, reading about how to develop stuff in Bitcoin and Lightning. So I had no exposure to it in my boot camp and kind of all the stuff I'd learned in the early part of my developer journey. So I still don't really know much about it, but I've worked with it a little bit now. I know that we have to encode data. There's just all these extra considerations that go into it, especially when you're in JavaScript. And so that's our low-level interface here that sits on this node. And a WebLN provider such as Alby, Blixt, Breeze, all three of these projects, they are providers. What does that mean? That means that they can tap into your lower level protocol in your node. If your node is connected through them, they tap into that and they provide you a simple interface through WebLN that you can just call methods on. So effectively what this does is they're taking care of all of the, like last week, like all the methods that we had to build to interact with our node, all the arguments. There's security concerns, there's error handling. They take care of all of that stuff at the deepest level. And then they give us a simple interface in very plain JavaScript that we can call those methods on. So they're effectively exposing the entire API interface for LND and Core Lightning. I'm not sure if it works with Eclair or not, but they're exposing that whole API and just making it super easy to call. So I think it's a cool trade-off balance where, the only trade-off with it is that you need to connect your node through one of these providers. That's it. And so we will be doing that today. And you should check out this website. I wonder if there's anything else I wanted to look at on here. So they give you some simple code snippets here. So WebLN, it lives on the window object here, which is the window object in JavaScript, specifically in the JavaScript in the browser. So this wouldn't be Node.js. We have access to a global object that just always exists no matter what file, no matter what scope you're in. Window is always available, and WebLN just attaches itself to this object. If you have it plugged in, through the Alby extension or something like that. And in case you don't know what Alby is, it's just a browser extension, just like a regular Chrome extension that you can throw on. That can be a Lightning wallet where you can, connect your own node. You can connect your own wallet. You can use their wallet. It's a really cool project. And they show you right here just what it takes to enable, what it takes to initiate the connection, this simple line right here. And they're showing that, like, for Bolt Fun, like, they have a pop-up here to enable permissions. And sending a payment can be this easy. It can be a single line of JavaScript. So that's really cool. So recently Alby, they announced kind of an extension of WebLN. So WebLN has been around for a year or more. And it was mostly simple at first. All that you could do with WebLN was pay invoices, create invoices. You could sign messages. You could do key sends, which is really cool actually. And I think you could do like LN URL auth, but I never messed with that personally. But that's all you could really do. There was no kind of deeper info into your channels or opening channels, anything like that. But they added that recently. I've got their announcement blog post here where they're talking about just the extension of the WebLN library to expose the entire L&D interface. So easy access to all Lightning Node APIs via JavaScript interface for web apps. So, and like they say here, it's now possible to build the next node management app as a client-side JavaScript application, right? So client-side meaning that it's just a website. It's just something that's loaded up on our computer. There's no server. So it's a very cool setup, and it's really exciting if you're someone that's not quite at that level where you're building servers yet, which is totally fine. So, yep, they got the same slide in here that we talked through. Yes, and they have a demo here, this Liquid Mercado, Liquid Market. This is their example project, and I actually used this to kind of put my project together. I looked at their code and kind of just destructured it and made a more simple version. You can see here they're kind of showing us how easy it can be to, list out our channels, connect to a peer, open a channel. The fact that we can do that in just these one-liners, it's really incredible if you can understand like all the complexity that's happening beneath it. So yeah, they have links to their example project here in both L&D and CLN. We're still just going to be in L&D today. And I've got the project right here. It's on Replit. You can find it yourself by searching Liquid Mercado. And I just forked it. So I forked this. This is my version. And I don't think I changed anything. This is just kind of the standard project running here. And yeah, I looked through this and looked at how they were implementing, so like channels here, looked at how they're implementing everything, and I kind of just took it apart and recreated it from scratch. And that's what we're going to do today with kind of the most simple possible node management dashboard template. Really, we're not going to do any styling. This should be a short project that you can do and then take it on, add data, add styling, make it your own, and it'd be a really cool portfolio project. Like if you're a junior dev, if you have like a node dashboard project on your portfolio, like I think that would be really cool. Because I definitely didn't have that when I was on the job search last. So yeah, it's a pretty simple example project, but still there's quite a lot of code here. Like if you imagine us writing all of this with all of these files in one session, that'd be a stretch. I just took a lot of what's here and simplified it and made it my own. So stop that. Right, and so that's what we're going to be building. That's kind of an intro to the library we're going to be using. So let's talk about the development environment we are going to be setting up to actually start coding. Polar, we talked about Polar last week. I love Polar. This is quickly becoming like my favorite project in the space. We're going to be using this to develop on RegTest Lightning so that we don't have to like connect our voltage node or whatever and be on mainnet and do something dangerous, open a channel we don't want to open, close a channel we don't want to close. So it's, we can always move to production, and maybe we'll even get to that point. Maybe I can plug one of my voltage nodes into production and we can see what that looks like. But yes, Polar, You can find it at lightningpolar.com. And yes, I highly suggest you download it. It's kind of going to be necessary for this presentation. It was necessary for last week's presentation. And what Polar runs on is Docker Desktop. So it's another thing you have to install. This is specifically Docker Desktop, which is the desktop app. If you go to their products, they have a lot of products. There's a lot of ways to use Docker, but I know some of you all have been talking in the Discord saying that you were having trouble getting Docker Desktop running on Windows. Sorry to hear that. I'm terrible at Windows. I never develop on Windows at all. So can't really help too much, but there's got to be guides, talk to ChatGPT, whatever you need to do. Docker is such an important tool to have in your Bitcoin dev arsenal. And just for running other projects locally, for contributing to projects, a lot of them use Docker. It'll be required. So it's something you should get through. Hopefully it's not too much of a pain. But I've got both of these installed already. And so we'll be getting into this. And one other new kind of tool we're going to be looking at, this won't be absolutely required today, but I want to show it to you. It's called ngrok, N-G-R-O-K. And ngrok does a number of things, but we can use it for a very simple thing, which is this idea that if we are running Polar locally, well, it's only local, we're running Polar, we're running this reg test network on our machine, and it's using Docker for that, spawning up these containers. But basically each of these containers, each of these nodes becomes its own local host, I guess you could think of. So when we're making a React app and we run it, we go to localhost 3000, and you can't go to another computer then and type in localhost 3000 and go to it. It's only local. So ngrok allows us to take a local host and expose it to the wider internet. That's all it does. And so we'll take our local host, 8080, whatever it is, and we'll get this really long, complicated URL back that allows us to expose our local reg test globally to the internet. And I want to show you this tool because it's very nice for Bitcoin development. There's a lot of times that you will need to be doing dev stuff in reg test, and you just need to expose that that local node globally in some kind of way to talk to your server or whatever. So we're going to look at that a little bit, and I've got documentation up here. So yeah, and this is the L&D documentation. We looked at this last week. We're not going to dig too much into this time, but I just want to point back to this because this is the entire interface that is being exposed to us through WebLN. So we've got all of these different calls that we can make to our node, all of this different data we can get or pass in, these actions we can take. So if we just go to add invoice, we can look at this again to see they've got JavaScript examples here, which is very nice. But if we wanted to add an invoice, this is all the JavaScript code we'd be writing. It's a very long snippet. There's a lot of what you'd call boilerplate or setup code that you even need to talk to the gRPC interface. And one of the main reasons for that is because gRPC, this different protocol, it's encoded different. So we have this protoloader.loadsync. This is basically encoding the data in a different format to pass it quicker. Versus with a REST API, what we're used to, it'll just send us back JSON. And in fact, I have these screenshots. So you hear API, and I was confused about this because I was like, okay, L&D has an API, but I can't talk to it like I can with regular API calls. Well, the API just means it's an interface. It's a programming interface that you can interact with to send data, get data. So it's not a REST interface necessarily, and this is what REST is, right? This is This is our classic REST API request where we have get, post, put, or delete, and this is communicating with HTTP to the server, and then we're getting back JSON. That's kind of what we're used to. Where like RPC, I've got this screenshot, and we're not even going to walk through this, but you can see RPC it's just this different protocol. It kind of passes through multiple layers. It gets encoded to a very, compact format, and gets passed on over the network. So luckily we don't need to learn RPC yet. We probably will at some point, but for right now we're still going to be just kind of JavaScript plebs. So I think that's enough to get started here. So I'm going to create a new React app. I think that's where we're going to start. So npx create React app, and I'm going to call my app WebLN dashboard. And actually I want to go to a different directory to do this. Okay, so this will spin up for us. And so this is going to be a single page kind of project. Probably going to make 2 subcomponents with it. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention, I have right here, this is the example that I've created over the past week, kind of played around with that we're going to be getting into today. So if you just want to kind of copy what I already have down, you can find that here, WebLN API example under my GitHub. And yeah, I'm kind of just I'm going to have this open on my side screen, and I'm going to be taking some snippets from that just to make this quicker. But we're still going to go through this project sequentially and kind of do it from scratch. So we have our new React app here. I'm just going to go here. And yeah, dashboard. Okay, so here's our fresh React app. And what are we going to do first? Let's empty out some of the boilerplate they have in here. Just empty out the header. We won't need this logo. And we're not going to have to install any libraries. I'm going to go ahead and get our use state and use effect though. Effect from React. Okay. Sorry, my phone is blowing up here, but it's nothing. Okay, so I'll just put a title here. Dashboard. And let's just run it one time at first. PMI, we're going to need to install and npm start. Okay, here we are, our node dashboard. So I'm going to take something, we've got this background color that's only on our app header, and I like this background color. It's just a simple dark mode color that we'll stick with, so I'm just going to go add this to body right here. So this will cover our entire app. And next, we're going to want to make a connect method. Actually, first I'm going to add a button of some kind to allow us to connect. So let's just make button. We're going to say connect. I'll be calling a method here in a minute. And then we're going to do something like this. set aside some state that we're going to put our node into. We'll just make an empty object for now. And yes, so now we're going to create a connect function. We'll take no arguments, and the user is going to initiate this function when they click this button. And this will just kind of connect. It'll ask for permissions and all of that. And so we need to make this async, because if you remember from our WebLN example, if I pull up the docs here, we have this await window.webln.enable. So let's call this first and foremost. Okay. And we're also going to get the node info, but that's not what it's called. It's called get info. We're going to console log our node info here. I'm just going to put this. We're going to have a few console logs going on because we just want to see all of our data as it's coming in. So there's that. And yeah, we can set our connected node. Go ahead and do that. Okay, but now we've got our basic React app set up here, our ugly connect button at the very bottom, which will be fine for right now. But we need to actually set up our extension and connect our node. So we'll do that first by setting up our local network, our local development environment. We've got our React app, it's ready to go. So we're going to start up Docker desktop here because this needs to be open before we open Polar. And it takes a second to start. And I'll go open Polar now. And we're going to make a new network. Dark mode by default. You love to see it. Create network. So I'm going to call this WebLN dashboard. And we're going to have quite a few nodes here. I want to have, so Bitcoin Core is kind of the back end here that our nodes run off of. I want to have two different Bitcoin cores. I'm going to keep Eclair out of here, and we'll have 4 Core Lightning nodes and 4 LND nodes. It might even be too much, but whatever. We'll do it because it's fun to have more. So nice. We have a pretty big network here. Let's start it up, get it running. First startup usually takes a minute. And I'm going to stick with Alice. I'm going to stick with my Alice node. I like Alice, old familiar. We've used the Alice node for all our presentations so far. And so our backends are green, they're running right now. It'll take a little bit longer for these nodes, I suppose. Oof, big dip there. Okay, let's just give that a second. So I'm going to pull, while we're waiting for this to spin up fully, I'm going to finish our connect function with kind of some error handling that I simply took from the Liquid Mercado example project. So kind of just took this, and this is how we're going to handle if we're not getting the info back. They've got this message, your connected WebLN provider is not supported. Please use Ali with an LND node. So that's good. And then we just, I think document.location, I think that refreshes, or I'm not sure. That's where it sends the message. But anyway, just some basic error handling we're going to add on there. Looks like our nodes aren't quite running yet. If this doesn't work, I can go back to an older network I had. Let's just add what we can for right now. We'll add an on-click on the button here, and this will call connect, very simply. Node info. We'll call this info instead of node info. Because that's what our error handling is using. So, okay, Polar. All right, we're successfully spun up. Let's go ahead and give Alice 1,000,000 sats. We can do that on the Actions tab here. Deposit 1,000,000 sats, and this will cause the block height to skip 100 or so blocks. Oh, it looks like our core lightning nodes are down. That's okay. I think I have too many networks on my Polar at this point. Not in sync with the chain, minor block. Jump to block 97. That's interesting. Okay, there we go. Deposit 1,000,000. Sweet, so Al should have 1,000,000 sats. So now we want to connect our node into Alby. And I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. I'll try and get through this quick so we can go back to the coding, though this is important. So we have this local host here, this REST host. We need to use this guy because it's REST. It has HTTPS at the beginning of it, and Alby will require that. So I'm just going to copy this and go back to my browser. And I have the Alby wallet already here. So all I need to do is open it. And since I have accounts here, oh my gosh, I have so many. I'm going to add a new account. And you can sign up and log in, all of that, or you can just go right to connecting. So we're going to go to connect. We're going to choose LND. And I'm going to put in my REST host here. And we're going to get our macaroon in hex format. We need our admin macaroon right here, so I can go to the hex tab. And I'll copy this with this button. Put that in. And so now this will give me a warning, a nasty warning. So originally I thought you could not use this URL at all to connect to Alby. I found out I'm wrong though, and I'm about to show you how to do that. That's why originally I wanted to use ngrok, or I was using ngrok originally, and I still want to show it to you all because it is useful, but Alby actually makes it unnecessary, which is awesome. What you can do is when you get this message, we can open this URL right here, make sure we don't get any SSL errors. We proceed, we get just another message here, and go back, try connect again, and we're connected. Very cool. Okay, kind of weird, I know. Otherwise, if we were not going to do this, if we were working with another library, let's say, and you needed to expose this URL globally, this local host globally, what you can do is you can copy it here. And once you have ngrok installed, which it's free to start with, we can run this command. I've got it actually up here somewhere. Yes, we can run this command, and I'll replace it with my URL. npx, we're running npx because we need access to the global packages. That's just what npx lets you do. We're calling the ngrok package. We're saying HTTP, meaning we want it to spin up a HTTP URL for us. And then we're going to put in our local host. And as soon as I run this, it'll generate a new session for us. And I'll stretch this out. And you see that we've got this forwarding HTTPS URL now. Just zoom in there. And we can copy this, which points to our local host, and we could put this as our URL. Like when we were signing up, we put up our HTTPS local URL. We could put this one up instead, and it would work without a charm. Alby would think you're on mainnet, in fact, or the Alby provider. But so yeah, that is how you use ngrok. There's a lot more to ngrok, but this is the simple way that I've used it, is just running this one command, getting the package in my command line, and it really comes in handy for these projects. So luckily we don't have to do that though any further because our node is connected. So now that's connected, let's try and call our connect function here. So first of all, I just want to change this header because it's so damn tall. Yeah, minimum height. Yeah, no thank you. We'll make that 10. This way our button will float up a little further. There we go. So I'm going to run connect now, and through Alby, we're going to call the WebLN library and try and enable our node. So let's just see what happens. I'm going to open up my console, see what we get. Okay, I'm getting info. That was pretty easy. Am I using the correct wallet here? This should be the bottommost wallet of Alice. Yeah. There we go. Okay. We call it and we have access to all of these methods now, and we get our node details. So we have our node alias. Very cool. So with our connect method, how it's set up right now, or our connect function, we are enabling, we're getting the info, and then we're console logging it. That's what we saw. And we're setting it to connected node. Very nice. So now I'm just going to put, I'm going to say connected to, I cannot spell. And we'll say connected node dot alias, I think it was, is our node alias name, which should be Alice. Okay, so it looks like it's in the node object actually. So we need to say, let's actually just set the connected node to info.node. That would be easier. And refresh this. Info.node. Okay. And so now connected node.alias connected to Alice. Very cool. So just like that, we just connect. I'm like amazed. I thought like I would have forgotten something, but it's really that easy. 2 lines of JavaScript. Okay. So now that we're connected, I want to get my balances. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this for time, and we'll walk through it slowly. I'm gonna have a load balances function. So let's walk through this. So load balances, we're once again calling enable, which maybe, do we need to do this? Maybe not. If we're connected, we shouldn't need to call enable again. So let's comment this out. So really we'll make these requests first. For channel balance and wallet balance, window.webln.request, channel balance here, wallet balance. One thing is like the formatting on these calls, if you notice, it's all lowercase. So this is a problem we had last week with LND gRPC, like getting mixed up. Is it camel case? Is it Pascal case? Whatever. But this is all lowercase, and we're putting it in quotes. So this is just how they've wrapped up things and named them. So we're grabbing our channel balance and our wallet balance with these request methods. And then we're taking a property out of it because we're getting an object back, and we're saying that this is our on-chain. We're getting our channel balance as lightning. And then we've got some setters here that I don't even have set up. Set on-chain balance and set lightning balance. So let's add that. Lightning balance and on-chain balance. Cool. And I want every time, I'm going to use my use effect now, because every time that, we'll just break open an empty use effect. Every time that our connected node value changes, basically once we populate this piece of state with our data, I want this use effect to run. So I'll put it in our dependency array here. That's what it's called. This is what triggers the use effect to fire. And so every time our connected node changes, I want to load balances. It's pretty simple. And let's add some information here. I'm going to have an H2 here. Let's actually make this an H3. We're going to show our pub key with. Another thing here, I actually need to wrap this in the same kind of condition, where I'm going to say if we have our connected node, then you can render this. So we can do the double and sign here as basically a very simple condition. And right here we're saying if we have connected node.pubkey, then show this. So let's see. Ah, yes, okay, and here is the first time, since we're now requesting more than just the basic info, Alby is going to have this pop up to ask us for permission. This is very nice in production, but it can be a little bit annoying in development because this is going to be popping up again and again, because every time we save and kind of rerun stuff, you have to reinitiate all of this, so whatever. So wallet balance, channel balance, cool. And it asks for this stuff, but really we're not ready for it. We're not connected. Let's connect again. Boom, boom, sweet. So here's our node pub key. Let's just add a style here in index.css. Let's say color white, so we can force all of our text to be white. Okay. So let's display our balances now. So load balances loads automatically. So I'm just going to add a div kind of container here. Lightning balance. And yeah, let's see if we get this. Confirm, I confirm. And it's telling me my lightning balance is 0. So, and that is because if we look on our network here, we don't have any channels open. We don't have any funds on Lightning. We have 1 million sats, but that should be our on-chain balance. So let's do this again. Autopilot making it easier to present and write code for me at the same time. So load, okay. And now we see our on-chain balance here. So we're getting that. That's very cool. Let's open a channel and let's just see if we can get our Lightning balance to update, make sure nothing's broken on that side. So actions, I have Alice selected, and I'm going to have Alice open an outgoing channel to, who am I opening it to? Carol. We'll do Carol. And 250,000 sats, that should be fine. Right, very cool. Back to our code now. Actually, wait, we just want to see if our Lightning balance updated. So let's refresh. We are now unconnected and get some errors here. That's fine. Connect permissions. Boom. Okay, now we have a lightning balance, and we see our on-chain balance has been is what funded our lightning balance. So that's cool. We're getting balances now for stuff, and so normally my natural next step would be like, let's create an invoice, let's pay an invoice. But we've done that a lot in the past, and I want to actually open and close a channel, or really just open a channel probably. So next I'm going to get a load channels function to go along with our load balances. And we will walk through this. Got some console logs in here. So, all right. So we're calling our get node info request here, which requires us passing our public key. So this is the argument that requires, and just remember, like all of these methods, they're all on the LND API. So if you ever don't know what to pass, you can look on there, but the Liquid Mercado project is really great for that as well. So I'm getting my node details here. We're going to console log it out. And then I'm going to request list channels, which is our simple call that we can make for LND to see our channels. And we're destructuring the channels out of this result. We're going to console log that. And then we're going to set channels to state, and we're going to sort them by balance. That's what this simple sort method is doing. So let's make, what is this? Channels, set channels. Let's make this now. Already asking me for permission. Load balances. And let's do load channels. And actually we might need to await these. So I'm going to make a new function called const load all. It's going to be async. And we'll just put these inside of here. We're not going to connect. And then our use effect will actually just call load all. Cool. Okay. So now we want to list our channels though. So, oh, actually, are we even getting our channel data? So let's connect here, confirm, confirm. We're getting channels undefined. Node details. Okay, let's go look back at our code. So node details is coming here. We're getting more of our node details. And then result list channels. Let's console log result here, because we know we don't have any channels yet. So, oh wait, I did open a channel. Yeah, there is a channel here. Let me update this graph. There's a refresh button here. Sometimes we have to hit this in Polar. Let's go back over here. Let's just refresh. Connect. Start the process over. Okay, channels undefined. Pending open channel. Do we need to like go a few blocks in the future here maybe? Might be our code here. It might be kind of running things wrong. Channels undefined. Yeah, It does not seem to be detecting this. So we should be on, we definitely are on the correct wallet here. So what's going on? Let me look over at my reference code real quick. See if I missed anything. Connected node.pub key. So this is our result for list channels. And there is no channels field. Ah, that's so weird. Let's just try and reconnect one more time. Channels undefined. Let's pull up, just so we don't get stuck here, I'm going to pull over my example project, which I know is working. Let's try it with this. And I can walk you through how to fill in the rest. So for this one, npm start. Make sure that one's stopped over here. Okay. So this one, you can see I added just the minimal amount of extra styling. Let's open up our console. And we've got our code open here. So this is a pretty similar, load all, loads all. Our connect function is the same here. Load channel, we're getting the node info. That was already working before. And then we're requesting list channels, all the same. Let's see what we get for this one. Maybe it's actually our polar environment that's messing up. So confirm, 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 confirm. Okay, this one works for some reason because I'm listing my channel out down here. So what is different? List channels. Versus my old one right here. Result, WebLN.request, list channels. Yeah, they're exactly the same. Okay, but we will continue with this one because it's pretty easy to fill in. So you could kind of comment this stuff out and go and fill it in. Actually can't. Okay, so yes, confirm every time. So we have our connect function, it's activated with the button. We get our basic details. We're loading our channels now. We're loading our balances. And what I did here next was just like, okay, that's enough logic in this component. Let's break it out into another component. So the first one we did was add peer right here. So I'll go over here, show you what we did. This is basically a form, very simple form where we take in the parameters we need, which is pub key and host, to be able to add a peer. And pretty traditional handle submit here. And I'm calling connect peer with WebLN.request. These arguments, the pub key and the host that we're setting through state. We set a success message or a failure message. I figured out we can't actually add peers on our polar network because we're already peers with everyone who's online by default. So add peers doesn't work, but that is a simple example for if you wanted to add this yourself. And next was the channels. So we see our channels getting console logged over here. Just look at this object on the side. So this is all of the data about our channel. Good Lord, so much here. And so really the important pieces of data are the capacity. Really, there's a lot of important pieces of data, but the ones we're about to use is capacity. We've got channel ID. And where's our balances? Remote balance, which is 0. So that's the balance that's sitting on the other side. We have, where's our local balance? There should be some kind of local balance here. Yes, local balance, 246,000 sats. So that's the balance that's sitting on our side of the channel. Remote balance is what is sitting on Carol's side of the channel. She hasn't contributed anything. We just opened up a channel to Carol. So I then went in here to make a simple channels component. And so since we're getting channels already in app.js with the load channels function, and we're setting it to state, I figured I'd just pass it down. So we have a new channels component that accepts channels, and we're mapping them out in a table here. So this is just like the table HTML structure, really simple. Where we start with the table, we have a header calledthead, and then a body called tbody, and then this is a row. tr is a table row, and then td, I don't know what td stands for, or th, but this is basically the data we're putting into our table. So it's just kind of a structured, a very simple, not pretty way to look at our channels. So let's comment out the channels function here, or the channels component. We're passing in channels. We know it should be getting set there. And really, we should say we only want this to render if there actually is channels. So I'm going to say channels, and then we'll put a closing curly bracket. And so this will be our condition in order to render. Accept. And then, yeah, we pass it down to channels. And so this is how that looks. Looks weird with just one, but let's add another channel. We'll do that with Polar, and we'll have Carol open up a channel to us. So Carol opens to Alice, and we'll deposit enough funds to make that happen. Okay. So now we should be able to refresh and hopefully see this new channel. Yes. And both of our channels here are here now. And we see one where we have all the local balance, showing us that we opened this channel. It's a perfectly unbalanced channel because there's no balance on the other side. And then Carol, instead of just adding liquidity on her side, she opened up a new channel where that's the remote balance for her, and yeah, we're listing that out now. But now for the final step here, I want us to open a channel with WebLN from our little app, our little dashboard that we're building here. So that is what I made this open channel component for. So let's start in app.js again. And I'll actually uncomment this out so we can see our add peer, which totally won't work. And when you click this button, we get an ugly form that pops out, and then it has a submit button, and then we can hide it as well. So this is how our channels is going to look. So it's going to be a very similar component to add peer. And once again, if you want to see this full example project that I'm working in right now, I've got it here on github.com/AustinKelsey. It's the WebLN API example. So yes, I think everything we need to do for open channel should be in this component. So let's go ahead and look at it. Somewhat of a similar structure here with our handle submit. This is where we're submitting the form where we're getting the data necessary to open a channel. And here's our channel request. We're awaiting window.webln request open channel. And then before we close this parenthesis here for this method, we're passing in an object with our parameters, our arguments that we're passing in. And so all we need is a node pub key and the local funding amount. So that's really cool. So this is the node pub key, of course, of who we're going to be opening a channel to. And the local funding amount is, yeah, just going to be the amount in sats or maybe millisats. I don't remember. We'll figure that out. And we're setting a success and an error message otherwise. So yeah, that's pretty standard. So this is something that we'll need. So I grabbed this function, also same from the Liquid Mercado work example project. You know, you can find this online. You can, have ChatGPT create it for you. We need to, in order to pass our node pub key to open a channel, we need it to be in the base64 format versus hex. And so that's just one of those encoding things that we need to deal with. But pretty simple function here. We're only going to need to do it one way for opening a channel. And so this is where we're grabbing the pub key. Where's our pub key coming from though? Oh, it's coming from the form. Yeah, so the user is just going to put it in manually because we don't know what channel or who the user wants to open a channel to. Cool, so pretty simple form here. Our inputs are pointing to these state values to update. And then type submit. And then our on submit is using our handle submit. So pretty straightforward. So let's try this out. So now that we've looked this over again. Yeah, I actually did not know, like last night I was like messing around with this and kind of finishing some of this up, and I did not know you needed to go from hex to base64. So like I was getting these errors that like the length of your pub key is wrong whenever I called open channel, and it was one of those like lessons. I thought at first, I was like, oh no, the pub keys on reg test must be different or something like that, but nope, it's just an encoding thing that comes up a lot with when we're interacting with Bitcoin or interacting with Lightning. So open channel is available. We got it here in our app. So let's give it a run. So looking a bit more like a dashboard now. We have open channel here, and we're going to put in the pub key for who we want to open to. So let's do that next. I'm going to go back over to Polar, and let's bring Aaron into the picture. I'm going to go grab Aaron's pub key here on her info page. Click that copy button. We'll go back to our app. Just paste that in, and our funding amount will be, what is that, 25,000, 250,000, something like that. All right, let's do 25,000. Okay, let's see what happens. So we have to approve for every kind of request we make. We have to approve, which is, nice in a way. We're letting the user know. Okay, channel opened successfully. Our success message pops up. And if we just go back to Polar here, we won't see it until we hit this refresh button. So we hit this refresh, and boom, there it is. And if I reload our dashboard now, reconnect, we will see our new channel below. Oh no, we're not seeing our new channel below. Do I need to Maybe I need to advance the block time or something. I don't think anything is getting cached, so this should be like refreshing anew each time. Let's look at our channels. Yeah, it's telling us we only have 2 channels. So that's kind of annoying. Let's see info for this channel. Why is this channel orange? Does that mean anything? Is private, false. Destination balance, 21,000 sats. Yeah, this is one thing I've noticed so far with Polar is once you get a bit of a bigger network, sometimes things don't load in. Okay, here we go. Now we've got our new channel up here. And it's actually this one right here, because this is our, 21,000 sats. It's in our local balance, and the rest was eaten up by fees. Oh no. That's fine though. Cool. So now I'll go ahead and show you also when we try and add up here. If I go over here.
Crashing your live stream.
Oh, you're crashing my live stream.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Give me some lights.
Yeah, I know. That's why I have this light on me here.
Gotcha.
Let's try and add up here. We'll see what happens. So info, we just need their pub key. Yeah, and if I add up here, get their pub key, we also need their host. And connect peer. No such host. Okay, well, HTTPS. Oh, I think we do our gRPC host actually. I wanted an error, but a different error. There we go. Okay, already connected to peer. Yeah, so with Polar, that's one thing. You'll already be peers with everyone, so that's kind of one thing that I don't fully know how to test here yet, unless maybe we are running 2 different Polar clusters at the same time. That would be a toll on one's machine. But yeah, cool. So, I mean, really, this is about like the basic template that I wanted to get to, where we're able to open a channel, we're able to read data from our channels, see our balances, we're getting permissions for everything, and we're exposing all of these methods we can use from WebLN. And so, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for all the ugly React here, honestly, like what we're needing to call here for Lightning, it's so little. I mean, there's literally like 8 lines of code that are calling methods in this whole little project. Getting our channel balance, getting our channels, getting our node info, all of that. It was very easy. So I would love to see people kind of take this template and run with it. There's so many cool visuals you can do with the data that you're getting back. I mean, just like all the data that's on each one of these channels. There's a lot of cool ways you can display it. I think it's a great portfolio project, and it's a great way to dig into, the depths of Lightning and how L&D is working here, because we're now exposed to all of these different pieces of data, all of these methods that we can call. So I find that pretty empowering. But nonetheless, that was kind of the basic, simple pleb dev version of your node dashboard using WebLN and using Alby. It's very easy to work with. So yeah, that is my workshop for the week here. But yeah, I guess any questions you have, if you're following along with this, be sure to post the link to this completed project inside of the Pleb Devs Discord if you're in there. But yeah, let me know if you run into anything weird, if you have trouble setting up your development environment, whatever it is. But yeah, I think it's super worth trying out WebLN. It's an amazing library, an amazing solution. And one other thing I'll shill Let's go back to get Alby. Let's go to their GitHub. Get Alby, the Lightning browser extension. This is what we're using. This is an amazing project. If you are looking to find your first open source like Bitcoin project to contribute to, I highly recommend Alby. They were actually my very first FOSS contribution. My very first Bitcoin project contribution was on them. They were super helpful, like walking me through what to do. I think they have bounties, maybe. But either way, it's a great project. It's a pretty simple code base, most of it, the Lightning browser extension. It's just kind of React and TypeScript-y code. And yeah, you can learn a lot about Lightning working on this. I worked on a LNURL pay feature, and I didn't know much about LNURL before that at all. And it kind of made me look into the spec and yeah, just dig into all those details. And so love Alby, love what they're doing. So definitely bullish on them. But okay, that's my shill. But yeah, thank you for joining me again here on another weekend. Normally, I'm going to do these on Saturday, but going to be gone tomorrow. So need a little bit of a weekend, so figured we'd do it tonight. I'll be posting a recording of this very soon. And yeah, let me know what you think. Show me your node dashboard if you make it. Love to see that participation. And yeah, let's just keep building. Let's keep this going. So thank you for tuning in. And yeah, have a great weekend. LFG, let's go. All right.